For more on this, we want to bring in former federal prosecutor Andrew Cherkasky on what happens next. Andrew, this battle between Judge Boasberg and the administration has gotten pretty nasty in recent days. Judge Boasberg was asking all sorts of questions about these deportation flights. The Trump administration invoked the state secrets clause, saying they're not going to answer it. Now the judge is saying, I might hold you guys in contempt of court for not turning those planes around when I ordered it. Where do you see this going next?
Well, what we're seeing here is a true battle between the judiciary and the executive, and it's totally unnecessary. I think what Judge Boasberg is doing, he is trying to push to the extreme, to the maximum, the question of how far the courts can go in not only ruling on whether the executive is doing something that's lawful, but instead inserting himself in the seat of the president to effectively direct and control what happens in what are historically and constitutionally purely executive functions, like engagement in foreign policy, which includes immigration and border control, and what's next, involving the courts in wartime decisions or in battlefield decisions. That's the slippery slope we're going to. But Judge Boasberg continues to press along here. This is going to have to get to the Supreme Court, and fast, I think.
It's on its way to the Supreme Court because, remember, the Trump administration appealed Judge Boasberg's order. The appellate court sided with Judge Boasberg, basically said the Trump administration cannot deport anybody via the Alien Enemies Act right now. Now that it's before the Supreme Court and they're going to have to look at it, just give us your thoughts. How do you see them potentially ruling on this?
Well, we saw yesterday the Supreme Court effectively discontinued a stay for other administrative decisions that are being made by the Trump administration. So I think that signals that the court is very much going to be deferential to Article 2 authority. The executive is allowed to control the decisions and the people that fall under him, under President Trump. I think that what we see in the Boasberg, El Salvadorian and Tren de Aragua extraditions is that decision is pending at the Supreme Court, but we still have Judge Boasberg at the district court level engaging in this inquiry as to whether there is some sort of contempt to be heard. I think he needs to stop entirely until more direction is given from the Supreme Court. But he's continuing to pressure and he's continuing to threaten, particularly the lawyers of the president, of the DOJ. And I think that is an overstep of the judiciary, again, into the executive's sole functions.
On another topic, DHS arrested a guy in Texas this week who allegedly threatened to kill ICE agents, basically posted on social media saying, if I see them in my neighborhood, I'm going to shoot them, quote, kill them all. They arrested him. There was a guy on TikTok earlier in the week who posted something similar saying, you should shoot ICE agents if they come into your neighborhood. This is serious stuff. And Kristi Noem has said, we're going to find you and prosecute you if you do this. What kind of prison time are people looking at if they make threats like this?
Well, anytime the feds get involved in an investigation, and that includes anytime people are threatening federal agents, they are going for lengthy sentences with very serious allegations against them. And so it could be a dozen years or more for threats, especially if they were something that was imminently possible to have occurred. I think that what we need to understand is that the First Amendment in our country is beautiful and protected, but it is not limitless. It does not include things that go beyond just speech. Threats, violence, the engagement of criminal activity on college campuses, at these protests that occur. Peaceful protests are fine, but there is such an inclination of the left to take a peaceful protest or take speech and turn it into violence or threatening language, and then to claim the shield of the First Amendment, and that's just not how it works.
One more topic I do want to get your thoughts on. The Trump administration, President Trump signed an executive order requiring proof of citizenship to vote in federal elections. It's kind of hard to believe, but Democrats apparently aren't happy with that. They're now suing him over it. Why would people not want citizenship verification to vote in federal elections? Make it make sense.
Well, I think that the left argues essentially that having to go to the polls with this proof is a barrier or an impediment for lawful voters to be able to vote. So that verification process, perhaps you don't have your ID or you don't have a passport or you don't have some documentation to make that happen. These types of voter requirements have been things that have been litigated many times throughout the states. At the federal level, there's actually not good precedent on the types of voter ID and these types of proof of citizenship cases that I think we need to understand whether this is going to be something that sticks or not. This is going to be something that's fiercely litigated. The process and the procedure to prove that you are a U.S. citizen and whether you have to do that at every single election or not, I think that is all going to slowly weave its way through the courts over the next 4 years. And by the time we get to our next presidential election, I think we're going to have a much clearer answer. And I think that there needs to be something in place to create a reliable guarantee that the people who are voting truly are U.S. citizens who have been verified and validated as such.
And it seems like we just got a little bit of a litmus test in Wisconsin. The conservative Supreme Court nominee lost, but voter ID passed overwhelmingly in that state. Do you think that's kind of a harbinger of where Americans stand on this issue?
I think that it's a very much, I'd kind of call it one of those 80-20 issues where there are some people out there who want to make sure they're protecting the greatest number of people's ability to vote, assuming they only want lawful voters there. But the vast majority of Americans have IDs, have easy ways to be able to prove their citizenship, and want other people to be doing the same thing, and recognize that there's a great threat in our country, that there are so many people that can swing elections if they are improperly voting. If we allow those people who are here to improperly vote, our elections and our democracy is in jeopardy under the rules that are in place.
All great points. Andrew Cherkasky, thanks so much for coming on today.
Thank you, Bill.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Kane podcast for full episodes right now.